Welcome to We Hear Her. I am Erin Trenbeth Murray.
And I am Jennifer Bean.
We're here today with another amazing woman who's sharing her story and insights to lessons learned. Hi there, I'm Erin Trenbeth Murray, and thank you for joining us for the We Hear Her podcast on women who succeed. Today, I'm excited to sit down with Madison Limansky, who is a new friend that I feel like I have known for a lot of years, but actually it's only been maybe 4 or 5 months. But let me share with you a little bit about Maddie's background, because it's really interesting and fascinating, and I'm excited to dive in deep with her today and have a chat about women who succeed. So Madison brings a very diverse background of 17 years in fashion and production to the role of the Chief Operating Officer for ShePlace. In conjunction with her degree in gender studies, Madison's career in fashion has created a passion and expertise in both technical media and event production, as well as advocacy for deconstructing and reconstructing conventional gender roles and beauty standards. Madison has curated a number of high-profile events centered on re-emerging women's plus relationships to fashion and body image, and she's looking forward to continuing the work of breaking down old patriarchal structures that prevent women plus from living in their own bodies and the world. She has joined ShePlace, as I mentioned, was the Chief Operating Officer, with a deep commitment to providing resources for the advancement of women plus owned businesses and individuals, creating a supportive and inclusive community for all, and moving the needle of gender equality and equity forward through financial wellness and intentional relationship building. So what a fascinating background, Maddie. Thanks for being here today and spending some time with us. I'm really looking forward to this.
Of course, Erin. Thanks for asking me to join. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you these last few months, and I feel like we've been friends for many years.
I know, it does. Well, that happens when you connect with somebody right away. So first, though, I'd love to know and have you share with everyone a little bit about your background, because your background is just fascinating to me. As we talked a little bit about the work you did in the fashion industry, to production, your advocacy work. So why don't you just share with us a little bit about where you came from and how you transitioned?
Sure. I mean, my professional path goes back a long ways, so I don't know if you want me to start at the true beginning, but I'm happy to.
Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Bountiful, Utah.
That's right.
Yeah, just
That's
north
right.
of Salt Lake City.
I don't know why that was a blank for me when I'm from Bountiful as well.
Oh, that's right.
We
I forget that.
forgot about that.
Yeah, Bountiful. It's everyone abroad was like, really? That's the name? It sounds like Pleasantville or something, and it kind of is.
Yeah, kind of is.
But I had a beautiful childhood. When I was very young, I had aspirations to become a model, and my parents were supportive. I would throw on my princess gowns and put on a fashion show, and I just had dreams of becoming a model, and they kind of, patted me on the back. We're like, sure, Maddie, that would be cool. Yeah. And so when I was about 10, I attended a scouting event for models, and these were really big in the 90s. There's a lot of different programming that did this, where they would bring in scouts from the modeling agencies, and it would allow all of the agencies to see a big group of girls at one time. And so at that event, I think I got 7 callbacks out of the 30 agencies that were there. But they said, maybe when you get braces and once you hit 5'5", I think you'll have a lot of potential. And I remember Stacy Eastman scouted me, for those that know old school fashion in Utah, and he was working a lot with Disney, and he said, just call me as soon as you're 5'5". And it's funny because I'm 6 feet now, and I think I was 5'3" at age 10.
Oh my gosh.
So, time passed on. I got braces. At 15 years old, I heard the same advertisement for that event. So I went back and did the whole process again, and I got 27 callbacks out of 30.
Oh my word.
I got more callbacks there by anyone for, I think, by about 12 people, 12 agencies. And so, I was super overwhelmed. The gentleman there, his name is Aaron, sat me down. He was like, where do you want to be based? I just said, I don't even know what that means. I'm 15. He's like, New York. And I was like, yep, New York.
Oh my gosh.
And so I actually went to New York City with my mom at 15 and met with all the agencies that called me back and signed with my mother agency. And my modeling career kind of began there. So I traveled for about 6 years pretty consistently. And back then I did high school via fax and videotaping. I would pay some of my friends to film my math classes, and they'd send me the little tape and I'd put it in my big tape and I'd watch it
on the VCR.
In my little VCR in my New York
my gosh.
apartment, and it was great. My grades were amazing because I could rewind the class if I missed something. And anyway, so my teachers were extremely supportive. My parents were extremely supportive, and I really had a very unique teenage experience. I moved to Europe when I was 16 and spent about 4 years there, and just moved around to all of these different markets and had a pretty wild time. More wild than I think my parents are ready to hear about yet. But, it was a really, it was a huge life-changing experience for me. I was able to see the world, and when you're modeling, you have to audition about 12 times a day, so you have 30 seconds to interact with someone and, not only present yourself and your portfolio, but also create a relationship in a short amount of time so that someone would want to work with you.
Connect quickly. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so it was, really changed my life and shaped who I am today. I think I'm such a people person because I've interacted with so many people in my life. So fast forward to age 21, I moved home. All of my friends were in their junior year of college, and I had yet to begin. And, I thought maybe I should start going to school. And then slowly some of my local friends started connecting me with local clients and McCarty Talent Agency. And it never really occurred to me that I could model in Utah. I just kind of went straight to New York and Paris, and I didn't really realize there was a market here. And so I started pursuing modeling here, and quickly my modeling clients in Utah became my first production clients. So my very first client was Albert Chloe. It was a store on 15th and 15th. I don't know if you remember it. It was there before Thule and the bike shop, and a lot of other businesses have circled through. But I produced a fashion show for them with the disclaimer that I'd never done it before, and they said, that's fine.
They're like, that's okay.
It's like, as long as you're hiring me knowing that information, then I'll do it. But at that point, I'd probably modeled in about 400 fashion shows. And
so you had a pretty good idea.
I kind of
knew
this
rodeo went.
What needed to happen. So, my fashion show clients slowly turned into print clients. Then I got into video production. At this point, I've produced a documentary and many music videos, and worked with a lot of brands all over the world to create bespoke corporate events and create unique experiences. Like, I remember once I did a car unveiling for BMW, and we hired models to host the clients and unveil the car. And so I've been really fortunate to work with a huge variety of clients, and with my former business partner Vanessa De Palma Wright, who owns Farasha. And through Vanessa I met Jackie, which brought me to ShePlace. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. When you were 15, and I'm thinking you and your mom are going to New York, I'm thinking, how would I even navigate that? Was there anyone that was mentoring or guiding you and your mom as to, this is what happens? You go, you find a mother agency, you have some, have your attorney review the contract. Was anyone walking you step by step, or did you guys just figure it out as you went?
A little bit of both. Aaron Fitzgerald, the gentleman I mentioned, who was with Pro Scout at the time, I'm still in contact with him today. And he really guided me through that project. He was the one that sat me down and said, okay, you need to be based in New York. These agencies are crap. Don't bother going there. These are the good ones. Head into these offices. And his advice was, see who gives you the most excitement. You're hiring them. And I always share this with, young models now, that your agent is effectively your employee. They're there to get you work, not the other way around. And so that was really helpful just as an opening frame as we went out and started that process. But really, it was kind of baptism by fire. We just learned as we went. And my mom, was my biggest coach. She never went upstairs to the castings with me because I was 15 and embarrassed. I was like, I don't want my mom here.
Right.
And so she would wait outside and just really coach me to, show up and be confident and clear. And I would say my mom was my biggest mentor throughout that time.
Love that.
Yeah.
So now you mentioned when you give younger models advice, tell me a little bit about roles that you've had in kind of mentoring or even organically or formally with mentoring younger women, and what advice do you give them? And I'd love to hear, especially because in your bio we talk, and I've talked with you a little bit about this, about body image, about self-esteem. What advice do you give them?
Well, I have to start by saying I think the industry has changed a lot since I was in it, even in the last, I guess retired from modeling 12 years ago, and a lot's changed in 12 years. And so I want to be honest and upfront that I feel like in some ways I don't fully understand what modeling is today compared to what it was when I was doing it. But the biggest piece of advice I would give is, the ability to hear no 100 times in a week. I think people have to have thick skin to get into this industry, and you'll hear no way more often than you hear yes. And so I rarely recommend it if someone I know is really self-conscious about their own physical body, hair, skin, nails, all of those things really matter in this industry. And as a teenage girl, those things are stressful anyway.
Yeah.
And so to have your income reflect your physical appearance just adds to the complexity. And, nowadays everybody experiences that to a certain degree on Instagram. And so I think what I experienced as a model, and what I think, ballet dancers, dancers, anyone that relies on their physical body to make money, I think in a certain way everyone is getting a taste of that through social media. And so my biggest advice is to not take the no's personally, that, because I've now been a casting director dozens of times, often we have, as a casting director, you have maybe a sample size of clothing, and this is the only outfit you have to sell this brand, and so you need a specific body type to fit the clothing. Or maybe you're targeting a certain demographic, and so to not take the no's personally, but to know you're just not what they're looking for.
Right.
And that is almost verbatim what my mom would tell me when I would cry because I didn't get the job. It's a specific niche that someone is trying to fill, and if you don't fit it, that's fine. There'll be another client that you fit the niche for.
Interesting. Tell me about that transition. Then you came back. You have a degree in gender studies. And
yes.
What drew you to that? And then did that transition to ShePlace?
So I found gender studies by total accident, actually. I love people and culture, and so I was actually going after an anthropology degree. I loved the humanities. I just love human beings in general. And so I took an intro to gender studies class, and it just really changed my life in a really big way. It kind of took my own personal experience in fashion and in the beauty industry and made it less personal. It allowed me for the first time to see my own privilege, because in the gender studies department we talk a lot about racism, ageism, not just what it's like to be in a female body or a male body, and so it really opened up my eyes to the way I use my whiteness in the world. To be a tall woman is also a privilege and has allowed me to get what I want in many situations. And so that was a really important moment for me. But it also just deeply influenced the way I saw the industry. I felt that hunger as a young woman to see more diverse representations of beauty. And as I got into production, alongside my gender studies degree, I was in a position of power where I could influence, who the clients were hiring and which clients I took on, and, if they'd be willing to put a burqa on the runway or hire an 80-year-old woman for a beauty campaign. And so, it wasn't as popular back then. Rihanna was not on the scene, along with many others that have been breaking down beauty stereotypes. But it really allowed me to, enact those values in a real world way and encourage my clients to do the same, and, ask questions that felt dicey in the moment, but also were kind of obvious. Like, for example, I was producing a photo shoot for a hotel, and I noticed that in all of the business meetings, there were no women. And I just said to the client, I just asked the question, why are there no women in this business meeting? And they kind of, looked at me a little shocked and floored, like, oh my gosh, I don't know, we haven't even noticed that. And so I think sometimes stereotypes are perpetuated in a way that's a bit, mindless. And so it allowed me to call some attention to how these decisions are being made, because the media we take in, as we all know, greatly influences how we think and feel.
I couldn't agree more. I just was looking at a publication from a college/university in Utah, which I will remain nameless, but it was for a specific college, and I was shocked as I was going through it. It would be 10 or 12 men highlighted and then a single woman. And then I got to the end and it was showing a picture of kind of the group of graduates, like saying, come here, come to this college. And they were all young kids, looked so happy, cheering in their cap and gowns, and there was not one person of color. And I was just really surprised how easily that could be overlooked in today's day and age. I mean, that's just not. The cognizance needs to be there, and pointing it out to one another, as you did in that photo shoot, I think is really important. Your work. Talk to us a little bit about your work with ShePlace.
Sure,
I'd love to have you share more about that with the group.
I'd be glad to. So, ShePlace was actually born out of a women's networking group that was called Utah Wonder Women that started 7 years ago. And that was started by Jackie Zahner, who's our founder and my boss and personal Wonder Woman, who I love and hope everyone gets the chance to meet. Geraldine Dreyfus, Jennifer Danielson, and David Parkinson. And when they started Utah Wonder Woman, they noticed there were no networking opportunities for women professionals, especially people that were coming into Salt Lake City to take jobs. Goldman Sachs has been a big influence in bringing more people into the city, especially with diverse backgrounds. And what they found is when people arrive, they have a difficulty making friends. Other professional women don't really know where to go. So they started that organization, and it was a quarterly event where they would invite someone to speak about their success story and just create some buzz and inspiration, and also an opportunity for women to gather and get to know one another.
Yeah.
And so when COVID hit, Jackie really wanted to keep it going, but people were not doing in-person events. It wasn't safe or appropriate to do it at that time. And so she proposed to her co-founders, let me take this over. I'm going to rebrand and make it a digital network. And so that was in May of 2021. We just relaunched as ShePlace, and we have just about 600 members right now on our online network. And we just believe wholeheartedly that our individual prosperity is tied to the prosperity of all other Women Plus. And we use Women Plus really specifically because we feel passionate about including gender fluid individuals, non-binary folks, any self-identifying woman or male ally that supports our vision. And so, we've been in business now since May of 2021. We're primarily an online network, but we host events on a monthly basis. We also have an offering called She Money, which is an article specifically on the topic of women and money, because we really believe that financial well-being is central to women's flourishing in this world. If you have money, you can raise your family in the way that you want to do. You can travel, you can have time for self-care. And money remains a big barrier for a lot of women to live the lives that they want to live.
Huge barrier. I mean, we just saw Susan Madsen and her husband's work. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on his name at the moment. With their analysis of the study where Utah was ranked in last place.
Wallet Hub study. Yes, I know that was rough to read yet again.
Yet again, here we are again. And so the financial stability is such a critical component, and in that their findings and recommendations about women being able to afford and access health care, women, there were so many elements to it. How many were making high income values comparatively to men in Utah, and minimum wage. It was just over and over again. So if people haven't had a chance to look at that study, that would be important.
If you go to uwlp.com, you can find that study. I'm so grateful to Scott Anderson, president of Zion's Bank, for commissioning Dr. Madsen to further investigate that Wallet Hub report. And I have to say, the numbers were really shocking to learn that only 5.9% of women in Utah make $100,000 or more, and that's, you know, considered high income in this market where homes have gone up $150,000 in the last year. You know, how are we supposed to flourish in this in those settings? It's just not possible to afford a home, to afford a great education for yourself or for your children if you're not making the money to do so. So she identified 10 potential solutions with the help of Scott Anderson and his team to improve our rating. But it's not just about the data and numbers. You know, we feel passionate about creating community. And I think if we can be with other inspiring women, learn from each other, share resources generously with one another, then, you know, all boats will rise.
I love that. Share generously resources with other. And I think that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed about ShePlace. We have the Women Who Succeed group, but that's within the broader network of the women that are on the ShePlace platform. People can go and look at sheplace.com and learn more about, is it calm, isn't it?
Yes, and you know, perhaps I'll explain that just
Please.
a little bit, because I know everyone is inundated with technology, and so just a word about how that functions.
Yes.
So our platform is on Mighty Networks, which is a women-owned tech platform. We work really hard to use as many women-owned products as possible. And so it almost functions like a private Facebook group, but it allows, instead of just a one-way channel of communication where we, the organization, are communicating with our members, it allows our members to communicate with one another and share. You know, you can pop on and say, I know of this amazing event by the Period Project coming up. Everyone should come and support. And so one of our biggest challenges that we hear as we, you know, speak with women in the community is that everyone is kind of siloed off doing their own thing. And what we really aspire to do is to connect all of those networks together so that we're all not starting from scratch, but we can really build off of one another. And so we were so thrilled to have Women Who Succeed join the platform as your own private group. And so, you know, we don't dictate what goes on in your private group, but we're hosting you digitally. And so if you're a member of Women Who Succeed, you can have access to that private group, but then you can also have access to the larger ShePlace community. So if you have something you want to share as a women-owned business, let's say you have an event coming up, you could go on and share that not only with Women Who Succeed, but with all of the members on the platform.
Which I love, because it's kind of like you're a convener. There's so many amazing different women's groups across Utah.
There are.
And there is some definitely, like, you know, board membership or something, you're sitting on more than one. They do have there are nuances to each one, that there's a targeted group. But I love the idea of ShePlace as the convener, kind of holding this round table, so that we can all kind of be on the same page a little bit, and be informed of what's going on.
Yes, we feel passionate about amplifying the work that's going on in the community. We know we can't do it all. Nobody can. And so if we can connect all of the amazing things that are happening, connect all of the amazing women plus that are doing great work in this community, that's our number one goal.
So one of the things that I've been really excited about is how much Women Who Succeed and ShePlace have been collaborating. And we've been talking about going forward into next year and how we can engage more women in moving forward with leadership and mentoring younger women. Women Who Succeed is, right now, we're taking membership forms and mentee applications for the following year. And we have a conference planned May 14th of this year in partnership with you and with the University of Utah, both with the School of Business and their Executive Ed program and their Goff Strategic Leadership Center. Tell me what you're hoping comes out of the conference, or what you're hoping that women will gain from being there that day.
Well, I love opportunities for intergenerational learning, and so I think it's incredible that we'll be bringing together the mentees, the mentors, to have, you know, group activities, and then also have their own curated breakout sessions to attend. But what I'm hoping we can achieve at that conference is, you know, ShePlace will be offering a couple of breakout sessions on the topic of money. I know you may have some other things in the works that I may not be aware of yet, but just to really encourage women to fully engage their financial resources. And I think to encourage that conditioning from a very young age, that, you know, the sooner you start, the better. And what I'm learning, you know, through Jackie and our team, Rose Masner is a part of our team as well, what I'm learning from them about money is how much I wish I started all of this learning 15 years ago. You know, when I was young, I just swiped my card and it worked and I'd go on my way. And that was about my extent of my financial knowledge. And I just think we don't talk about money enough. And so I'm excited to have sessions to just talk about money, and especially for these young women, to get them thinking about this at an early age when it makes such a big difference. You know, the power of compounding is huge, and the sooner you can start, the better.
Bravo. Well, I have to tell you, thank you so much, Madi, for speaking today.
Of course.
Your personal background and kind of where you've grown to, I just can't even wait to see what you do with the next 30 years of your career.
Oh, you're so kind.
Because you're going to be leading this community without a doubt. And I'll be in my walker in my retirement center somewhere watching and saying, I knew Madi
oh my
when
gosh.
she was young.
You're so sweet.
But I'm really proud of the work that you have done and that you are doing in the community. So thank you so much.
Well, I'm sure we'll be reflecting together on a lot of accomplishments. You are a very busy woman, and I'm blown away by all you're doing too.
Thanks. Well, thank you for joining us today for the We Hear Her podcast. Remember to look up ShePlace. And that's sponsored, or not sponsored, but the platform is Mighty Networks, ShePlace.com.
ShePlace.com.
Yes, and we'd love to see you next time on our podcast. So thank you for joining.
Thank you for taking time to hear her. Join our efforts and learn more at womenwhosucceed.org. A big thank you to our sponsor, the Clark and Christine Ivory Foundation.